The moment Jayden hit the water, his whole body forgot how to breathe. 1 second, he was falling through warm summer air, laughing, and the next, he was somewhere freezing and dark. From the top of the cliff, the water had looked flat, blue, and completely harmless, like a giant swimming pool. It was not a swimming pool, and this Roblox player was about to learn that the hard way. To understand how a perfect summer afternoon turned into the worst 2 minutes of his life, go back an hour. Jayden was 15, and it was the kind of blazing hot day where you would do anything to cool off. He was with a group of older kids from his neighborhood, the ones he had always wanted to be part of. They rode their bikes out past the edge of town, to a place their parents had told them to avoid. His parents had warned him about that place 100 times, and he had rolled his eyes every single time. It was an old flooded quarry, a huge pit of deep water with steep rock walls all the way around. Everyone knew a story about that quarry, and everyone also knew somebody who swore it was totally fine. On a day that hot, the cold blue water at the bottom looked less like a warning and more like a gift. The older kids climbed up to a ledge and started jumping off, whooping and splashing far below. They made it look easy, and they made it look fun, and they climbed back up to do it again. Jayden stood at the edge with his heart pounding, trying to work up the nerve to follow them. He was scared, and he was about to back down, and the older kids could see it on his face. One of them called him over, grinned, and said that everybody was scared their first time. No big deal. Then another one said the words that get more kids hurt than almost anything else on Earth. He said that if Jayden was too scared to jump, maybe he should just go home with the little kids. The whole ledge laughed, and in that second, going home felt worse to Jayden than any pile of rocks below. He thought about his mother's face, and then he thought about the laughing kids, and the laughing kids won. Nobody at that quarry was trying to hurt him, and that is what made it so easy to ignore his own fear. So he stepped up to the edge. He looked down at that calm blue water, and he jumped. The fall felt amazing for exactly 1 second, the warm wind rushing past, the older kids cheering above. Then he broke the surface, and the water was not warm and blue. It was black and unbelievably cold. It hit him like a wall. His chest locked, and his lungs pulled in a huge gasp all on their own. He had not told them to, and he could not stop it, and his mouth was underwater when it happened. For a heartbeat, he did not understand it, because nothing that cold should exist on a day that hot. Freezing water rushed in where the air should have been, and every plan he had ever had simply vanished. He kicked for the surface, but his arms and legs had gone strange and heavy and slow in the cold. His body was screaming 3 things at once: breathe, get up, get out. And it could not do any of them. When his head finally came up, he could not get a single steady breath, only fast, shallow, panicked gulps. The cliff he had jumped from towered over him now, and the walls all around were sheer, wet, and smooth. There was nowhere to climb out, nothing to grab, and the far edge was much farther than it had looked. He tried to swim toward the nearest wall, but with every stroke, the shore did not seem to get any closer. Up on the ledge, the older kids were still laughing, because from up there, it looked like he was fine. Jayden could not even call for help, because every scrap of air he had went into just staying at the surface. He was not splashing wildly or screaming the way people do in movies. He was quietly slipping under. Every second he stayed in, the cold stole a little more control from his arms and from his legs. His clothes dragged him down, his muscles were failing, and the water kept pulling the strength out of him. He looked up at the bright ledge full of his friends and understood that they had no idea he was drowning. One girl on the ledge stopped laughing, because something about the way he was moving looked wrong to her. She yelled his name, and he tried to answer, and instead his head dipped below the surface again. One of the older boys, the one who had dared him, jumped straight back in to pull Jayden out, and within seconds the exact same cold slammed into that boy, and now there were 2 heads struggling below. The boy who had jumped to save him was suddenly fighting that same freezing water for his own life. He could not find Jayden at first, because a person going under does not thrash, they just quietly sink. The kids on the ledge finally stopped laughing, and a wave of real panic swept through every one of them. One of them was already on the phone with emergency services, hands shaking, trying to describe where they were. Another threw down a rope they used to climb, and it was 10 feet too short to reach the water. For a minute that felt like an hour, nobody on that ledge could do anything but watch and shout. Then, by pure luck, a man who fished at that quarry came around the bend in a small aluminum boat. He had heard the screaming, and he rowed harder than he ever had, and he reached the boys just in time. When he finally grabbed a fistful of Jayden's shirt, the cold had already turned that boy's arms to stone. He pulled Jayden over the side first, then the older boy, both of them blue-lipped and barely conscious. By the time the ambulance arrived, Jayden was breathing, but he had swallowed and inhaled a lot of water. They rushed him to the hospital, because water in the lungs can turn deadly even hours after you are out. He spent the night on oxygen, with his terrified parents beside him, watching every breath on a monitor. His mother did not yell at him once. She just held his hand and kept whispering that he was safe now. He kept apologizing through the oxygen mask, and she kept telling him there was nothing to be sorry for. The older boy who had jumped in to save him ended up in the bed right next to his, coughing and shaking. For weeks afterward, Jayden could not even take a shower without his chest tightening at the feel of water. 2 kids who had come to that quarry to look cool had very nearly not come home from it at all. And the man in the little fishing boat is the only reason this is a story with a hospital in it. Here is what that calm blue water was actually doing in the seconds after Jayden jumped in. Deep water like that stays freezing cold even on the hottest day because it is fed by underground springs. When your body hits cold water suddenly, it forces you to gasp, and you cannot override it no matter what. If your head is under during that gasp, you breathe in water, and it can be over in a couple of minutes. The cold also drains your muscles fast, so even strong swimmers lose the ability to swim within seconds. And a quarry has no shallow end and no ladder, just sheer walls that are almost impossible to climb out of. Every summer, this exact thing happens to teenagers who are sure their swimming would keep them safe. It usually takes the person who jumped, and then it takes the friend brave enough to jump in after them. So if anyone ever calls you scared for not jumping into water like that, let them call you whatever they want. Saying no at the edge of a quarry is not weakness, it is the smartest move in the world. And if you ever see someone struggling in the water, you do not jump in after them, because 2 can drown. You throw them something that floats, you keep them in sight, and you scream for an adult and call for help. Jayden is okay today, and he says the scariest part was how friendly that water looked from up on the ledge. The dare lasted 5 seconds, the swim lasted 2 minutes, and the fear has stayed with him ever since. If you know someone who talks about jumping into a quarry or a lake this summer, send them this first. And if this story got to you, hit that like button and subscribe, because it truly helps these reach further.